So usually on the Gladden podcast, we first of all started with our guests introducing themselves and telling us a little bit about themselves, their background, and exactly what they are interested in, what we're going to be discussing. But just for the sake of our audience, today we are going to be talking about consultancy. Uh, Today we're going to be discussing consultancy in the EdTech community within the business uh, corporate sector. And our guest for us today is Patrick Serumola. He's going to pronounce it better. So
Mm-hmm.
we say thank you once more for joining us. And can you just introduce yourself to our guest, to our audience?
Oh, thank you. Well, like I said, thanks for having me, and I tried to prepare for this event, not really knowing where to focus. In short, I have over 18 years of experience uh, in learning and social sciences. I have to say, the focus was studying from teaching and also in instructional design. I have worked in many industries, education being the first one, and then technology industry, health industry, life sciences, like pharma. I've worked in utilities, like gas industry. So I have an insurmountable amount of experience when it comes to working in the educational technology, instructional technology realm per se. So I have worked also in big uh, projects, small projects that lasted maybe a week, bigger projects that lasted more than 5 years. So so hopefully we'll be able to touch a few things on that.
Wow. So,
Yeah.
like you say, you've been in the EdTech community for quite a while now. 18, you say 18 years or 17?
Yeah, 18 years. 18 years. Yeah, when I try to sit down and calculate it because I never really get a chance to do that.
You know, and time, yeah.
And maybe I should also, I should not forget my alma mater. I have to give this to Syracuse University. This is where I went to school for instructional design. I have went there for my master's and also attained my PhD there, my doctorate there. So go Qs. I still bleed orange and follow orange all the time. So
Wow, that's a good
I,
news because
yeah,
it almost sounds like my journey right now to get my master's and now my PhD. So
yeah. I think we have a lot in common. Yeah.
exactly. So talking about the EdTech community, a lot of time people hear about education technology. They always think about the educational sector, in specific higher institution, schools, primary up to college level. But you come from a different perspective, which is the
Yeah.
business and corporate sector. Can you just talk about how different that is, even though I don't know if you have a lot of experience with the higher education sector?
Yeah, I would say I don't have that much of educational experience in terms of instructional design, but I do have an understanding of what's happening out there, and I have to probably put this blame on one of my professors, former professors, who is now retired, Professor Emeritus, Dr. Phil Doherty. Uh, he had a very big influence, not just him, of course, but a lot of professors in Syracuse, because most of them uh, have a lot of experience in not just in one industry, not just in education or higher education. But if you are familiar, you can look up Dr. Dory and you'll see that he's had a lot of experience. And one of that made me really think a lot during my academic process, thinking about should I do my PhD, and after I did my PhD, should I go in higher education? But when he spoke to us during one of the classes, or two of the classes that I took from him, he always fed, he had like a lot of experience to talk about different projects that he did in the military, different projects that he had in education, different projects in health, in technology. So that inspired me. And that's why when I graduated from Syracuse, my focus was going into corporate, not because of the money, but but because of that experience, I would say. And a lot of, I'm sure you probably the experience that you have had, you find that most of the professors in instructional design, they have you know, a lot of background in terms of they're not just focused on higher education. And maybe lastly, the other thing that I could say is that the debate about educational technology and instructional technology, and then instructional design has been going on for many years. And I think now it has kind of subsided, I would have to say. And I think simply because maybe it's because I don't go to conferences uh, yet. I mean, a lot now. I used to go to conferences when I was a student. I was very participating in conferences, and that helped a lot to understand, the difference between educational technology and instructional design. I mean, instructional technology and educational technology. So educational technology usually, the argument would be that it's more higher education or it's in education, and then instructional technology, it covers more, dealing with instruction, and then you deal with a lot of context. But I think now everybody has kind of like agreed in a way, because now they're being used synonymously. Nobody's arguing about, hey, are you in EdTech or are you in instructional technology? And now we throw in instructional design. So in corporate, most of the time, we talk more about instructional design. You won't hear much about EdTech or instructional technology. It's all instructional design.
So it sounds like the business and industry sector will have a huge impact on you. And I just want to go a little bit into your own story. Graduating from Syracuse University and getting out there and working in the business and industry sector. How was it like? Was it easy to, are there jobs out there? I know getting jobs is not always easy, but was it, how did you get, some of those contracts? Was it something that you had to do? Anything? I'm asking this question from the perspective of a lot of current students who are studying right now and thinking about going to those sectors. What should they look out for from your experience?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's a very big challenge when you're in instructional design, and then you move into corporate or business. Simply because if you are a student, most of the time that you're thinking about is your courses. You go to class, you pass your courses, and you get all those A's, and the GPA is flying high. And then all of a sudden, boom, you've passed, you've graduated, and then you're looking around for businesses. Then most of the businesses are looking for experience. So it was a very big challenge for me because I had not really gotten too much into the business, but so I had to sell myself in terms of what I knew, talking about connecting the business strategy and connecting to instructional design, what I can offer for them. And part of it also was because of my qualification. When people look at PhD, all they think about is, hey, you're supposed to be at some college teaching, not in the business industry. And I tried to talk to them about it. I think some of the jobs I would say I probably didn't get it because they'll just tell you you're overqualified. But you just have to keep going because you know what you can do and you know the skills that you have, so you should be able to sell them. One of the courses that also helped a lot for me was the capstone course. I don't know if they still have it. I haven't really looked at the syllabus. It's the capstone course that was offered by Dr. Klein. So the whole outcome of the course was that student will go through a real project, and then they showcase, maybe come up with a portfolio, build a portfolio for yourself, and then after that you can use it so that you can show your skills. So that course was very important because it helped you to look into the business rather than just looking at a model and critiquing the model and say this is how they've done it, but you are dealing with a real project that the professor was able to come up with. So I would say that's a very important course to know. And also the other thing is to make sure that when you're a student, you're also thinking about where you want to go. If you're planning to stay in higher ed, I would say probably the same thing if you plan to go to business. Think outside and say, what are they doing in the business industry that I should be aware of? What are the trends in the business industry, which I'm sure we'll get to at some point? What are the tools that I have as a student that I'll be able to sell myself? One of the tools that I think are very important is for that instructional designers who go to school and get qualified and certified to be an instructional designer. You already have an advantage because you've gone through instructional design principles. You know how to design for the quality solutions or effective solutions because you're going through that systematic design of the instruction. You all know about what to look for in terms of you don't just go into the project and then you don't ask questions. You know what the right questions to ask. And then the other course that's very important also was the project management course, which I think that's one of the skills that an instructional designer needs, especially in the business. You need that one because some of the some of the demands or the ask from the business would be, can you manage a project? And you could get lucky and be given a project that you have to run away with, being the lead project manager there, even though you were hired as an instructional designer. So that's one of the things that I think instructional designers, especially when you're a student, those are the challenges that you need to have. You need to be able to define yourself. What is the purpose for that education that you are taking? And you have the challenge. I know we're not getting there yet, but the challenge when you sell yourself because you already have people who are calling themselves instructional designers out there in the field.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you compete against them? But the advantage that you have is because you know the theory, you know the practice. You understand the theory a lot better. You have adult learning principles, which are trending a lot. The Eddie model, the Dick and Carey model. I'm not going to go into detail of that, but and then you also, one of the other ones that is very, very important, which I know people don't really look at a lot, is the Ghanaian's 9 events of instruction.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you've never been a teacher, make sure that you have that in your pocket because that's one of the first ones that's very important. That can help you when somebody says, go and design the training. We've already done the diagnosis or the analysis. What we want is this. Then if you don't know how to design that instruction, then you're going to be lost. But if you have Ganya in your pocket or in your toolbox, as the SU professor would say, then you can play it out.
Wow.
Yeah.
You just have me smiling because for instructional designers who are listening or watching right now, they can definitely relate to most of the principles and the model you just talked about. So that brings us to exactly one of the issues we talk about. Claire, let me just ask this question this way. What is the trend right now in the business sector for the instructional designer?
Well, I would say that the trend right now has even been boosted by the pandemic. Instructional design is going to be in high demand. I make that prediction, and I think everybody in instructional design are thinking about that. This is because companies, and I'm sure even in education, they are now looking for people who understand how to learn remotely. What kind of solutions can instructional designers come up with that will help them to still do what they used to do when they were doing everything face to face or in the presence of everybody? So I think there's one of the biggest trends I have to say is for an instructional designer to have that growth mindset. Uh, but by that I mean, you cannot go in and expect that you're going to see AD happening everywhere. And instructional designer has to be flexible and adaptive. So when you go in, because instructional design in the business is very, very, very fast and demanding. When you go in as an instructional designer, whatever they have in that job description is usually not the case. Whether you're a freelancer or you're a full timer, usually somebody has already decided what they want to do. So you have to be able to be adaptive, that growth mindset, and shift right away and understand what the business or your client is looking for. Another one is the cultural. Um, you know, you have to understand the culture of the business. What do they do? What do they value as an organization or institution? So that's one of the things that you should be able to connect them, because that's what clients are looking for or companies are looking for when they talk to you. Can you make that research before you talk to them and understand what Samsung is looking for? When Samsung says, "Hey, we're looking for an instructional designer," can you go into Samsung website and look at them and see that, hey, they're using virtual reality? How much do you know about virtual reality? And I think that's one of the things that instructional designers get thrown into. Uh, One of the things why I was telling you that I was busy is because I have just got a new project, and I've never worked in pharmaceutical. Well, I have worked in health and insurance, but I started working in a pharmaceutical company probably like 6 7 months ago. And
Patrick, we lost your audio.
you did? Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now it's good. It's good.
Oh, okay. I don't know what happened there. Yeah, I was just saying that one of the things is that you have to be, one of the trends is rapid development. So you have to be able to, quick, fast, quality, development or design. Um, so you have to be ready to jump into that need and be able to develop whatever they're looking for. And one of the things that you can do for yourself is that you have to understand the business itself. I was just talking about the project that I'm already in right now, which is, proprietary. I'm not going to say the name of the company, but it's a pharmaceutical industry. And I've never worked in clinical research. So, where they have a study, like right now they have COVID-19 research. So I'm in there as an instructional designer who is supposed to be understanding the processes that they go through when they first come up with a study, and then they do the trials, and then they actively do close the trials, and what kind of compliance they should be following and all that. So those are the things that when I go in, it's if you're not ready, you can be you're even in trouble because you want to understand what it is. So that's what I'm saying. You have to be ready. Rapid development is one of the trends that are happening out there, and growth mindset, understanding the culture. And then the other one, and not to talk too long, is an instructional designer has to be able to connect the business strategy and the solution that they have. That's one of the things that I think one of the jobs that I was able to get because I talked a lot in my interview. I talked about how I connected, how I had the business acumen to look at the business strategy and be able to connect to the solutions that I have. So that senior manager who was interviewing me right there, he told me, "You got the job," because we were talking about, what instructional design really is and how I do my instructional design. And I always told him about the vision. I want to understand what the vision of the company is. And when I do that instructional design solution, I'm thinking about the vision of the company and that vision that will drive the solutions or the design process that I have, because I want to be able to remind the the learners or the participants who take the, if it's training, who take the course, who the solution is designed for, to understand that this is connected to our vision 2025 or vision 2020.
Yeah, so that brings me to this question, because you talk about a lot about something that as an instructional designer myself, about the fusion. So a lot of your projects, a lot of your ideas have to, you have to sell it out to your clients, as a consultant and as an instructional designer. How do you describe the process of that fusion in the business sector, in terms of hierarchy? Who are you working with? Who are you working along with? How are you manipulating? The word manipulation might seem harsh, but how are you working along with people there to have your idea in through that fusion chain?
Yeah, very good question. Yeah, so one of the things that happens also is that you have sometimes you have a team. When I started, my first job down there in Syracuse, I was hired as this is a company that was having an instructional design for the first time, instructional designer position for the first time, and they had most of their training where they were onboarding their new hires. The onboarding process will take probably like maybe 12 to 16 weeks, I would say. So part of why they had an instructional designer is because they had hired a consultant, and who told them, hey, you need an instructional designer to help you, or to help the trainers that you have, so that they can come up with good solutions for training. Because if you're taking 3 months, 4 months training new hires, by the time they graduate, you've lost so much money. So in that way, I was a one-man team. So that means they're looking at me to say, hey, what are the solutions that you have? But then you have to be able to work with the management. So most of the time you have maybe like a director, and likely if you have somebody who understands why they hired you, you'll be able to prosper, because they will give you the mandate to go ahead and come up with some solutions that you think are very relevant to what needs to be done. And I think that's very important. If you have the support of the leaders that you have, and then you can work with your subject matter experts, who we know in instructional design that they're very, very important. But then also you will have that challenge of having the resistance from people who, I said, they are instructional designers, because they've been given that opportunity to go ahead and train people. Since they were trainers, so they also have resistance because they've been there. But to them, when they train for 16 weeks, it's not a problem. But I'm coming in as an instructional designer saying, hey, the business in those 4 months, when you hire somebody new, the business is losing money, because they want to hire somebody, and then somebody has to be able to perform within a short time, so that they can add value to the business. But they're not thinking that way, because they're getting paid. So those are some of the resistance that you might have. But if you're an instructional designer who went to school, and you understand, or you went through the theories of why instructional design or educational technology is very important, and what it is, what it means to design an instruction or a solution, or a lack of performance in a certain field, then you know what kind of why your role is that important. But then you also have other companies that do understand why an instructional designer is important for them. They will, you'll have to work with project managers. You will have with change management leads. You will have maybe evaluation design, and evaluation teams that you can work with, and you also have subject matter experts from different fields. One of the companies that I worked for had a model like that, which to me was one of the best models, because they had the instructional designer didn't have to worry about project management. They don't have to worry about booking hotels because there was a team that did that. They didn't have to worry about the graphic design or being developers because they had developers outside the company, like in India, to develop the courses. All you had to do as an instructional designer was your brains and also design the storyboards, and then you ship them to them. You work with the subject matter experts, and then you design the solution, and then so in that way is it's perfect. It's like a perfect world, which is very very rare. It's because they had very good. They had people who the lead of the learning development had a PhD from Penn State, so he was an instructional designer. So he had been there for many years, so he understood what he needed, and that's how he designed the whole uh, department like that. But it's very rare. Where I am right now is different.
I was going to say, you said it's very rare to have those kind of model within the business and corporate setup. So I was going to ask, if your own time working, how has it been? Because working, I know you just had that one experience, but other jobs you've been doing or giving consultancy to other areas, have you tried to adapt that model, or did you come up with something different?
No, it's something different every time. You have these different models that we have. Like I said, 80 model we have, which a lot of people do know about in the business industry. You have the Dick and Carey, the systematic design. So you understand those. But then you have to take pieces here, here and there to combine them, so that because you have you, the need, now you have to design the solution. So really, the most important thing is for you to understand what the ask is and the value that the company that has. When I moved into because the way, maybe talk a little bit about where I work now, which is as CI, as a senior consultant. So I work as a consultant in uh, different areas. So I've been there for 2 years, and I've already had uh, 4 projects in different contexts. One of them was utilities. So before I went into pharmaceuticals, and right now working with medical doctors doing their clinical trials, throwing in all those terms about what they do, I was in a tunnel. Uh, I was in Lincoln Tunnel with with the technicians and the engineers showing me what their people do in a tunnel. So from wearing a helmet to now going to before COVID, I had to wear that lab coat. So you wear different hats. So that's why it's very very important, because one of the things that I try to do when I go into a project, I demand diplomatically to go in and see what it's like to work on the other side. If it's the financial services, like I work in financial services, I want to see what that auditor does on a daily basis, so that if one of the solutions that I'm coming up with is a case study, then I understand exactly what they're doing. Uh, so it's been a little hard right now, like in the one that I have with the farmer, because I cannot go in, but I understand. So I have to go into the models and see what kind of research they do, how they do it, if they allow me. Because some of them they cannot allow me, but I try my own to do that. That's why I said in that utility company, I had to go and see what kind of corrosions. When they talk about, hey, we have some corrosion in the pipes, people have to go and inspect annually or 2 weeks. You have to inspect the tunnel daily. So that's the exciting part of instructional design. Everything is challenging and everything is new every day. So
So that brings us to one of the, I would say, the tough question. you've had quite a success on your experience in the business sectors and industry. But I just want you to point to one of those challenging moments that you've learned a lot from, and why was that a very learning moment for you, a learning incident for you?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think one of the first ones that I learned was the teammates that you have. Like I said, and I think, and I guarantee you're gonna be telling me someday that, hey, I was in this interview and people looked at me like I was not supposed to be there. I don't know why they invited me to the interview, because the first thing they look at is your academic qualifications. Even when you have a master's, like a lot of people, the challenge that you have is that to be able to relate with everybody. I At some point I remember talking to Jerry and Bob, who are still my mentors now, talking to them about should I even hide my PhD that is not there, because people seem to have that. And then they were, hey, you gotta put it out there. Let it out there. If it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. So you gotta keep pushing. But that was a challenging part of it. That you have people who already had the jobs, they're experienced in the field, and they call themselves instructional designers, and you have to be able to distinguish yourself. And I think the skills that you have helped me to distinguish myself, in the sense that I talk about I am not just an instructional designer who's just going to come in and look at or develop an e-learning, because people look at that you're just coming in. Can you develop e-learning? Yes, I can develop e-learning. I can take Adobe Captivate and captivate it, or line and do it. But at the same time, I can have that one-on-one with the subject matter expert and be able to offer some solutions to what they already designed. I think, like I said, we have an advantage because, during school, you talk about why not every solution is training. So being able to relate to them and talk about the fact that you don't need training here. You probably need a job aid, and that will save you a lot. Or because we don't have time, we really need to just go ahead and do a prototype. One of the things that I have come up with now for my own approach is that when I come up with a solution, I also think about prototype. When I do a course, and because most of I would say maybe 50 to 55% of the time in business, a lot of clients sometimes they already have, not in the one that they already have a diagnosis that they did. They'll tell you, hey, we need training here. So the question is, are you going to, do you have time to, write, meet the subject matter experts, and then do a storyboard, and then head develop? But I don't do it that way. I just, you know, meet the subject matter experts. This is my understanding. And here's a prototype. So I just jump from there, and then storyboard is in the middle, but I just do it for myself, but I just jump to the prototype. So that is one of the things that has helped a lot, because then the client can see the final product before it's not even done. So they get impressed. So you need those PowerPoint skills should go to work. You can use those PowerPoint skills. And unfortunately, PowerPoint is free, so you can always design something very good on PowerPoint and then show it and say, "Hey, this is what you're thinking. This is what I think you are thinking. Let's talk about it." And then they will say, "Oh, wow, look at that! You even added that piece." Yeah, I added that piece. Then you have the chance to talk about it. So you have a lot of pushback. You are an instructional designer. It's not all free sailing there. You have a lot of pushback. So that's one of the things that I've learned and that I made me shift from what I usually how I approach my projects, design and then prototype.
So, you mentioned that a lot of time in the business sector, the client already have a diagnosis, and they just
Yeah.
tell you, "This is where we want you to get. We want you to get from this place to that place." Um, how do you find that as an instruction designer after learning needs assessment? You've learned that you have to go through a funnel analysis and be able to identify the problem before designing your solution. But here you are going to a sector where the solution has already been known and you have
Yeah.
to work with that. Has that been a little strange for you as an instruction designer after learning
It is.
design?
Yeah, it is. It's very, very frustrating. It's very frustrating, I have to say, because you are here coming in and you want to understand, because context in instructional design is very important. You got to give me a context, and then I can develop a story out of that context and get an understanding. And then I can tell you what my recommendations are. But in the business doesn't work like that. That's why the rapid development is a trend that each and every instructional designer has to think about. So the frustration comes that you don't understand, you don't know where they're coming from, or you can even tell right away that I don't think training is the solution here. Yeah, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? So that's the approach that I usually take in that regard. I know that some of them don't have the time because you're talking to the VP, and he knows he has everything. So you have to be diplomatic about it. That's why most of the time when something like this happens, I make sure also that I establish some relationship with the other team members or any other somebody who is influential. I request a meeting with them, talk to them about the the need that has been identified, and I try to understand, because some of them will tell you, they'll say, well, we don't agree with this, but that's what they want. So that's when then I will go ahead and then say, okay, this is what I understood you to that you are looking for. This is what you think is happening. But here, are you okay talking about what I found out? Yeah, some of them will be like, yeah, okay. And then when you talk about the issue that you found at hand, and then say, hey, in my other project, even if it's not an other project, it's how you think. So they will be able to relate to that and say, oh, no, I didn't think about that. Yeah. So um, if you are thinking about this, I don't think you can just say, if you're thinking about this, I don't think this can happen because you don't have one, two, three. So those are the things that as an instructional designer, for me, are very important for you to be able to read the context, what that you're dealing with, and also have those good communication skills to talk to them about what their need is and what you're trying to accomplish, and say, I don't think this is even you know aligned to your vision. Then they might say, oh wow, did not think about the vision. Yes, you got to think about the vision, because then you don't even have to write those nasty emails and say, hey, everybody has to take the course. So then they have to think about that, because if you tie it and say, hey, we have course 101 or communication 101 because we are going to be going virtual, and everybody needs to take it because our vision is that in 2021 we would like everybody to be able to do ABCD. So then they understand that no, this guy is not just talking about a piece of hardware or software that they're going to develop, and then we are supposed to take it. So they can see that relationship. So I think that helps a lot.
So lastly, the last question here would be context challenges.
Uh-oh.
You work in a lot of contexts as it relates
Yeah.
to settings.
Mm.
Uh, I don't know if you only work in the US or if you work in other parts of the world. And what are some of the challenges that you found to be really contextually oriented that you have to work with as it relates to different settings around the world?
Yeah, I haven't really worked a lot in other countries. The closest I had come was when I was a student. There was a project that we had in the Pacific Islands. The Pacific Islands, Hawaii, Samoa. I never got to go there because the project wasn't really well defined. and then we ended up not even going there. I was working with Professor Theodori on that, and then I didn't get to go. But the challenge for that all the time is is the expectations. You know, they usually um, people don't think about their own context, like what they have, what they don't have. This is why it's important for an instructional designer to be what I'm like right now. I just got my in terms of professional development. I got my I'm a Scrum Master. You know, Scrum Master meaning agile. You know, you gotta be agile. Scrum or agility has come out. I mean, a Scrum Master, you know, is the person who is able to facilitate teams, be able to teams and make sure that they get going. So I saw that as a very good skill for me to be able to help organizations. When I talk about it, when I talk, I have, when they say, do you have any agile experience? I talk about that. And I think that's one of the ones that is trending that instructional designers need to make sure that they understand what being agile means and how to achieve what it is. And it's a framework, very straightforward, but it's a framework that is there. Project management, I'm studying for my project management PMP certification. And right now, hopefully I'll get a certificate at the end of the year. And but it's another thing that even though I have a PhD, I still have that challenge. But why am I talking about these? These are very important because they help you when you get to the context. You are able to do change management because you understand what being a change agent means. And you are able to understand that as an instructional designer or as a project manager, you need to understand the context because all the contexts are different. And instructional designers have to be able to be adaptive, have that mindset when they get to the project. And it's very, very challenging all the time because the challenge being that you don't know anything about that context. But people expect you to be on board within a week or two. Maybe a week, two, maybe in a week they'll give you a break and say, okay, and they give you a break in the sense that they're throwing stuff at you. Here is the website, here are the links, here are the materials we have. So then you're supposed to be, up in there, and the following week, it's like, okay, so now they're looking at you to give them some deliverables. So that is part of the contextual implications that are there that I see. And the other one also is an instructional designer being able to do different skills. There are a lot of skills that we have. There's an instructional designer who know instructional design in terms of being able to consult and with subject matter experts, come up strategically with what has to be done. And then also, as an instructional designer, you also need those graphic design skills, which we in instructional design we call them developers. You have to familiarize yourselves with developing tools. So make sure you have the developing tools and you understand them and you can use them because most of the time that's what when somebody does instructional design, sometimes they just want you to come and do an e-learning program because they already want you to put everything online. So if you don't know how to develop a project or a course, then you're in trouble. So those are very, very, very important.
Thank you so much, Patrick. We could cover a whole lot, and we wish to have
I
another
know.
session. And we wish to have another sector. And I know there are some of our participant audience out there might have some questions, but we cannot take questions now. And we hope that they can leave the
Uh-oh. Did you froze? Oh, dang it.
Are you there?
Are you there? Wow. Did you hear me?
Yeah, I think. Did you lost me?
Yeah, I lost you. You froze.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I thought maybe you got kicked out.
Oh no, no, we are stay here. We are stay
Oh,
here.
okay. Sorry
Yeah.
about
The
that.
question was, what would be your last word of advice to instructional designer, educational technologists, um, instructional technologists, and the list goes on of those who are out there who are thinking about going to the business and industry or corporate sector? What would be your own, from 18 years of experience, what would be your own short words of advice to people who are thinking about taking your route?
Yeah, the very good question. I mean, I think I would say the first thing is be patient. If you can learn to be patient, you will survive out there. Uh, and second thing, instructional design or being a learning consultant is trending. I see a lot of instructional designers being needed out there, both in corporate and I'm sure even now it's going to even be higher because of the COVID-19. So I think that's going to be a very very important skill to have or profession to have. So you need to be out there, and when you don't get the job in one interview, the next one you might get it. And the other thing that I made a mistake with was that I didn't have a portfolio when I did my interviews and all that stuff. I still don't have one right now, which is horrible. But I would say you need one. A portfolio doesn't take much. When I still you know do teaching on the side. Uh, and when I talk to the students, that's one of the things that I say. A portfolio, has to be like just targeted. You need probably, you know, 3 slides that you can talk about. Maybe each project, different projects that you did. It doesn't have to be like too theoretical. Make sure that it's nice and it sells exactly what you want because you don't want to sell yourself short. Don't talk uh, about just that one experience that you've had, maybe in higher education. Uh, Look at what it's in the industry. Go to YouTube. I think there are a lot of courses that you can have. Maybe you can take one and then design yourself. You know, things like tools like Articulate, Captivate. They have 30-day trials or 60-day trials, so you can take those. I mean, especially in the US, if you're in the US, so you can use those, create a course, throw it. You don't. It doesn't have to be a full-fledged course. You know, these tools allow you to save some of the output as PowerPoint, or you can save it as a PDF. So you can maybe take 2 or 3 slides and then put them on your um, or in your portfolio and talk about the project, so that people can see what you can do. Because instructional design, it's a very difficult field. People still look at us as like, what exactly do you do? So you have to be able to for people to understand that you are not a trainer. You are not a teacher. You are an instructional designer. You work with human performance and helping solutions. That's why I still, I define instructional design as a social science. With any area of that deals with human performance. Dealing with people because we deal with people all the time. So that to me, it's a social science. It's not education. It's social science. You could work in education. You could work in any other industry that you have. So my advice would make sure you do those outside. Go to the conferences and learn a lot from them.
Wow, thank you so much, Patrick. You said it right. Instruction designers, even I have that testimony myself. It's difficult to tell someone and explain to them exactly what we do, and but you said it very perfectly well. And those who are listening or watching, we got that understanding that instructional designers are actually performance solutionists. People who get out there and find solutions for performance issues as it relates to whatever humans are and whatever work or whatever job they are doing out there that they have performance structure. So thank you once more, Patrick, for joining us, and thanks to everyone who tune in to us and listen to this very educative, learning from the content of his 18 years of experience. We hope one day we can also have him again and borrow some of his very basic time to learn about what's happening out there and how incoming instructional designers, even those who are already in the field, can have a better understanding of what it means to be an instructional designer in the business and corporate sector. Thank you so much, Patrick.
Thank you, and be safe out there.
Yeah, and you too.
All right. Yeah. If any questions, you can hit me on LinkedIn. I'm there, so
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah, I'm available. And there's
yeah.
also that instruction. We have an instructional design group, in LinkedIn, so people can go in there. There's a lot of over 100 members there.
Okay, I will definitely find that group and share this video with them also.
Oh, okay, that's great.
All right, so thank you so much.
Bye, Gong.
Bye.